Hey friends, welcome back. This is episode 151, and Dr. Carmen and I are going to talk about effective leadership. This is kind of what I'm obsessed with right now. I just graduated a leadership course and realized, oh, I think I'm a leader. And Carmen was like, "Are you kidding me?" Um, yeah. And so, yeah, I love learning about leadership and like especially women as leaders because in my experience, I have not met many effective female leaders. I'm just gonna put that out there. I've had several bosses that were awful. Um, but I think maybe women just haven't, there's not been a specialty in like teaching women how to be effective leaders. And then we have
Yeah.
all this self-confidence issue, and it has been a male-dominated world up until the last, I don't know, whatever years, however many you want to put on there. So I think maybe it's a new emerging field for women, and like we're just learning and trying to get our feet underneath us, and like how do we be effective leaders? And of course, there's a lot of growth for males in leadership as well, but I love to focus in on women. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the opportunities are changing, right? And I
Yeah.
think they, yeah, have been. I will put a number out there, maybe like the last 20 years,
Okay, thank you.
30 years. Um, and I always think of women in a leadership role as those who are kind of cutting the trail, right?
Okay.
Because for men, a lot of those leadership positions, I think of either it's already been established to a
Yeah.
certain extent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they just kind of not fall, but like I want to say fall in line,
Yep. Yep.
and so it's already, yeah, been established. So that's not a path, it's not a trail anymore. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, these are sort of the highways you can take. And um especially around like in businesses or in like larger corporations, right? It's historically been predominantly male.
Yep.
And so you, yeah, will see um those situations where they will mentor, men to be, a leader. And whether they're a good leader or not is debatable. But uh but I do have to say, yeah, I do believe, and I feel like we've seen, even in our lifetime, more and more women like taking that opportunity, making those opportunities, to be, leaders in our communities and our in businesses and organizations. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
what's we're getting there. We're getting
Yeah.
there. We're, yeah.
So in your before you became an entrepreneur, did you have women in leadership roles, and how were they as leaders?
So I did.
Mhm.
I think my experience was a little bit unique, I guess. But uh so as part of an organization when we were in middle school, junior high, what
Okay.
grades? Fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade.
Okay.
And it was called Peacemakers. It was Indian Youth for Indian Youth, and it was led by a woman,
Uh,
who I would say was a very good leader.
okay.
And so the goal of the organization was to address um, suicide rates
Mhm.
among 8, 9, 10, 11-year olds,
Mhm.
right? So we were taught um, huh, ways to think out of the box,
Okay.
right? We were taught and encouraged to think about the future, right? Like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, if you didn't have any things holding you back, right? It doesn't matter where you came from, what type of house you lived in, what do you see for yourself? What would you, like your wildest dreams? And so the experience really kind of, I mean, is very charismatic, right? But was very passionate
Mhm.
about being able to like help youth, but to support them and help them to like be successful when we got older.
Okay.
Right. And so I think of her as a really good, really, to me, as a fourth, fifth grader. I don't know how old we were, 9, 10. I mean, that was very impressed upon me. When I didn't have a lot of, like experience, or I used to think that teachers were really good leaders, but they can be.
Can be.
They can be.
They can
Yeah.
be.
So, and sometimes we can see leaders like within organizations, or even within church families. But I do feel like being exposed and to that organization, and like seeing how passionate she was, and like being excited about it, and how supportive, I kind of thought, well, I can do that when I grow up. I mean, not that exact thing, right? But like, I could be, a person like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, when I was in my master's program and we were learning about leadership, and there were, I don't even remember, this was a weekend conference, and it was mostly led by men. And of course, I went to social work school, and we were 50% women and
Right.
50%, no, that's not true. It was woman dominant.
Yeah.
Social
Yeah.
work field is women dominant. So there were
Yeah.
probably like 15 to 20% of men there. But the leaders that they brought in to teach this leadership conference were all businessmen.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember, I don't really remember what they talked about, but I remember one gentleman being like super charismatic, like super friendly, I don't know that he got his message across, but he was very, very friendly, and like he was joking on stage, and like had a lot of audience engagement, but the other the other presenters were not that charismatic. And I remember at the end of the conference, and we all had like these discussion groups, right, of like, what did you take away from the conference, like how can you incorporate this into your positions, into your practicums and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a lot of us thinking, they chose the wrong people to come and present to a social worker, to a class of master's students who were primarily female. And that was a very vivid discussion that we had after that.
So what is your definition of an effective leader, or what qualities makes an effective leader? How about that?
All right. So I think of an effective leader as somebody who is very supportive, encouraging, engaging, who listens to their constituents, whoever they're leading. I think of that as a person who is knowledgeable, and like, not just, I think a good leader is somebody who brings people together, but also moves them in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so those two components, I think, make somebody an effective leader.
All right. Questions for me?
Not yet.
Okay. So I think about an effective, I'm trying to think. I had some really good teachers that were very nurturing, I think, and caring. Yeah. Leadership for me, just based on my personality, was probably more like coaches, because I was an athlete. So I think for a while I defined leadership as, and I think that's probably why I struggled with female leadership and I did better under men bosses. Because I feel like leadership, like, I'm a person that needs structure.
Right.
So I need to know, where are we headed? Why are we headed that way? Right?
Yeah.
And what is the, like, some sort of structure of getting there? I do not do well with leadership, and this is my personal, I don't believe good leadership is someone that says that there's no hierarchy.
Okay.
What I mean by that is like I have a specific person in mind right now. Like they come in, they're like, there's no hierarchy. We're all just experts.
Yeah.
Well, where are we headed?
That's
Because if all of us are experts, we're all going to have a very different direction as to where we are headed. And if we're coming together as an organization, we got to be headed somewhere. Like,
right.
I don't want to be out in this ship with you doing circles,
Just yeah.
just sailing for the fun of it.
Just
No.
out in the middle of the ocean. Like, okay.
No, I'm not a fun of it person.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not effective leadership to me. I think effective leadership, especially what I would love to see as women, because women tend to be nurturing. They want to include everybody. We are typically uncomfortable with being like the expert that's going to tell everybody what to do. Like that's not like a role that a lot of women feel comfortable in. So for me, my vision of effective leadership for women is someone that steps up and says, here is where we are headed. You can either follow me or not, but those of you that want to follow me, here's where we're headed, where the goal is, right? That communicates well from a clean place. A lot of communication when we are not healthy and confident as leaders tends to be like this very dirty place in terms of like it's got people pleasing in it. It's got like wishy-washiness, right? And then we're all just confused, right?
Yeah.
But a clean communication is like a confident communication. Like, here is where we're going, right? You are good at this role, right? I see this potential in you. Do you want to step up in this role? Yes or no? You say yes. Awesome. I back off then and let you work your magic. Right. I don't think effective leadership is micromanaging. We all can agree on that. And effective leadership, I just got called out on this, is also not controlling, because women, we like to control a lot. But it's not controlling. It's trusting your people. Here's where we're headed. Now I'm going to bring in all the people that can fit all these roles, and this is their area of expertise. This is where they shine in, and I trust them to shine. I don't manage them. Like, I trust them to do their thing, right? But we're all like at least moving towards a goal. I like how you said it brings things together. We're moving in a direction. Yes. And someone that can balance being caring, right? But also with empowering their team to take responsibility and empowering their team to feel like empowering them enough that their team chooses to take responsibility. Right. Yeah. Because then the team feels heard and seen. The team also takes responsibility for their role, and they're on board with the mission. Right.
They're motivated and excited for the
we're a team.
Exactly.
Right. Like, I think also effective leadership from a female perspective for me is I know what my strengths are, and I also know what my weaknesses are. I'm not a detail or like, I will tell you where the ship is heading, and I will get the right people in the right places, and I will like and at that point I'm like, hands off. Like, you know how to run, you know how to steer the ship. Awesome. You're gonna do it. I expect you to be like, hey, I need these things, and I will totally support you. Right. And I will get those things for you as a leader. Right. For you to do your job. But also, I believe, as like my definition of myself, or how I see myself as a leader, is like, I see where the problem is, the need is, and I see how my team needs to be supportive. Like, I'm watching and listening for the problems, and I'm recognizing the problems, and I'm going to solve the problems for the team, right? To give them what they need to be successful, to be the voice that advocates for them. But I'm not the one that like runs the show. because they're individually, like I empower them to step up and shine in their ways.
Yeah.
So I see it as like a servant. Like I'm serving, like I see the mission, I'm going to give the direction, but then I am serving the team to accomplish the mission.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a fantastic distinction. Because sometimes I think that people will sometimes mistake a leader as somebody who's in charge and who will do everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's effective leadership, right? Yeah.
Who likes that role?
I don't know.
It's so stressful.
I don't know. Well, I've seen several people who take on that role. Yeah. But I don't know that it does them any good if they slow down to really think about it. Yeah. But I think you're exactly right. I love how you outlined that, is that a leader is someone who identifies and uses all of the strengths on the team, right? Yeah, because if you're all trying to achieve a specific goal or wherever you're headed, right? People are there for a reason, right? Yeah. They're behind that. They want to get to that direction as well, or achieve that goal. But when you give them the opportunity to shine at their strengths or to work together at what makes sense, well, then whatever you accomplish at the end, you guys did to, like everybody gets to celebrate in that success, instead of just, oh, you get a pat on the back, I did a great job, right? It's like, okay, that you missed the boat.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that, and sometimes I think that can be a little bit challenging for folks if you have like a new group of people or a new team, right? Like that you're trying to lead in, trying to identify kind of all of those strengths. And if you're in a team and maybe not the leader, what things can you do to share and show how you can contribute to the team, right? Or how you can contribute to the organization so that the everybody can move forward.
Yeah. And I think effective leadership is also seeing like if we have like this team, right? We have all these people coming together. I think as an employee, it feels like this imbalance in power. Leadership holds the power, and us as employees don't have the power. Right. We're just we used to call ourselves like, we're the ground workers. Is that right?
We used to call them worker bees.
Yeah. Like we're at the ground level, the trenches doing the work.
In the trenches. Yeah.
And so you could see like the power differentiation. I think when you have that in an organization, that means you don't have good leadership.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because if a good leader could see their team and see from the bird's eye view, like, okay, I see the strengths of each of these person. Now I just need to move these people into roles that are better suited for them. Right. But when you don't do that, you just see them as like, well, I'm responsible for it all, leading it all. And these are the worker bees. Not that they would have that like specific thought, like there's always going to be this tension. Right. Because you're going to have people like me that are in the worker bee position. That's a born leader, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to guarantee you, I'm stirring shit up down here in the trenches because I'm not in the role that's like I can be successful at.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think if you can have this, like, I see myself as, okay, I'm the leader because I'm good at seeing people's strengths and potential. And I'm also really good at providing structure.
Yes. Yeah.
And when people can have structure, and they can be empowered with their strengths, we can move mountains. It's not because I have more power, right? It's like we're on the same playing field, people. This is just my skill set. My skill set is seeing your guys' potential and creating structure. Yes. And then you guys can thrive in the structure and your guys living in your potential.
Right. So I have two comments on that, especially for people who work in, who are working with an organization, right? Or in a business or whatever, you work for somebody else and you don't work for yourself. Is that what I have seen is that sometimes businesses do not hire people to be leaders.
Yeah.
They hire people to be managers and bosses or worker
Yes.
bees. And so there's a big disconnect, right?
Yes.
But if you happen to be in a situation where there is that hierarchy and the manager or the boss or whoever supposedly higher than you is not a good leader, I would encourage that even within your organization and all of the folks, yeah, on your level or whatever within your area, that you can still create a team and still create a leadership without, yeah, having that hierarchy so that you guys can, yeah, create a work environment that is that you could thrive in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That you can, yeah, still achieve the things of the department or whatever where it is you're working, but not relying on somebody higher up to step
Right.
in, yeah, and self lead or yeah,
Yeah.
co-lead whatever organization you're with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that that will improve not just like productivity wherever you're working, but also your mental health.
Right.
Yeah, and your, potentially your enjoyment for work or your,
Yes.
yeah, um
Yes.
achieving things within, yeah,
Yeah. Because I
the
mean,
business
you're
day.
totally right. Because when I worked in
Yeah.
higher ed, like
Yeah.
it's so much hierarchy and siloed, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't see it that way. I felt like at the mercy of the leadership,
Hmm.
and I was a disgruntled employee, right? I
Yeah.
was in a role that didn't fit my strengths,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I was frustrated
Right.
a lot,
Yeah.
and like I didn't have a lot of respect for you go up the food chain,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
I felt like I was being suppressed by them,
Yeah.
which I guess is thoughts, right?
Right.
But I felt disempowered. Well, a disempowered employee is going to be a
Yeah.
disgruntled employee,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy with your work. You're not going to be happy to be there. Like, and because of that, like you're not going to get opportunities to move into positions that are better suited for you. Versus now, like I've taken radical responsibility for my life. Like I've been in a program in the past where it was like this, like no hierarchy,
Yeah.
we're all just experts. And like I was so frustrated, but because I'm more confident now, I just like created my own structure.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah.
your program that I have paid for, but for me to thrive, I need some structure.
Right.
And just stepping in and doing that without expecting anybody else to, and not being afraid of getting my hand slapped.
Yeah.
Like, fine, slap me, but this is what I need to survive and thrive. Like,
Right. Yeah.
that's on you. And if you're uncomfortable as a leader because somebody else is doing that, that's your work, not mine.
Yeah.
So
So I recognize that strength.
right. But yeah, like how much different would my life as an employee been if I'd have had that capability back then?
Exactly.
Like, no, like here, I'm going to create structure and I'm within my team. And if my boss doesn't like it, that's her work.
Right.
Right. Or we can have a discussion, but she's probably not going to be upset about it because she's going to start seeing my leadership skills shining at that point because I'm going to make the team more effective.
I was gonna say, yeah. And usually they're thankful because they're like, oh, things are happening, right? Like
Yes.
we're meeting our deadlines, we're getting this
Yes.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if they don't know how to do it, encourage you to find, yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay to step up within, yeah, your organization. Don't wait for somebody to come in
Nope.
and be that leader. Yeah.
No. Because that's not effective leadership.
It's not. Yeah. And it may not happen.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. So what else? Any other questions? Thoughts?
Do you have any like resources for people?
Resources. Man. I think people know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've known ever since I was a little girl, like, I think I'm like I knew I was meant to lead. I
Yes.
never, my identity wasn't that I'm a leader.
Yeah.
I was waiting for someone to give me permission or someone to teach me or waiting for something to come about for me to see like, oh, you have a plaque now that says that you're a leader. You get to be a leader,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
my identity wasn't there. But I think I intuitively knew.
Yeah.
You?
Um, let's see. I don't know that I have resources for folks, but I do agree, or I do agree with that. For as long as I've known you, I have seen you as a leader.
My husband concurred on that. It's like, you're so good at bossing. I'm like, that's called delegation.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't say it's, yeah. I can see how you translate that, but it's not just bossing. It's right. It's getting people together, right? Like, and moving them forward. And yeah, I think that you do have those natural abilities. That's what makes you a good coach. Made you a good coach in CrossFit. But I think that or I want to encourage people, if they have that, like, maybe I am a leader, maybe I'm not, like they find themselves kind of gravitating or wanting to gravitate in that position, is to just do it, right? Like take that step of that confidence and see what happens. Because I was not that person. When we would do group work, right? I would have all these ideas in the back of my head and I'd be like, oh gosh, if you just did it this way, this would be a lot less painful. But I wasn't one to like step up and say something. But if you have that foresight and that, like, oh, I can see the big picture, I can see, how we could be more successful as a team, to say it, do it. Just try it. They will probably be less flailing around if they have a little bit of direction. And that could be you.
Resources. If you like Brene Brown, she has a book, Dare to Lead. Like if you're in the state of Oklahoma, like we have a ton of like leadership programs, like Mid-America Leadership. A lot of the like just search like leadership programs. You can be a part of. Also, like try things like you said, right? Like how I had to do for this program was like, I just was like, if this person's okay with this, like I would post, if you're okay with this is what I would like to do, right? So I was like trying to be respectful for leadership, but also like I saw a problem. There needed to be structure, and I was just willing to experiment and like, would you guys like to do this?
Put it out there.
In a respectful way towards it. I'm not trying to disrespect you, but I love the thought I'm going to get what I come for. And that has really empowered me as a leader. Like, I'm going to get what I come for. And like, this is what I need. And most of the time, if you're needing something, other people are needing that too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I like it.
Cool. All right, ladies. It's time for you guys to step up and become effective leaders. We should do a whole podcast episode on ineffective leaders. It includes people pleasing, manipulation. Yes. All of that does not work.
Not helpful. Not helpful.
All right. Have a great day. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, definitely send comments. If you are one of those women, I'd love to chat with you. You can DM me on Instagram or TikTok. Because I'm really interested in having these conversations and starting to create, strengthen, and empower women to step in the leadership roles that they know they're meant for. So
let's foster that.
Yes.